Hello, everyone. Welcome to American Family Insurance DreamBank, where we believe in the transformative power of dreams. I'm Monica. She and her are my pronouns. If you visited us or tuned in virtually before, welcome back. And for those that are joining us for the first time, I'd love to take a moment to introduce you to DreamBank. Here at American Family Insurance, we believe communities are stronger and the future is brighter when people are actively pursuing their dreams. It's why we created Dream Bank. This is an inspirational community destination um, and digital experience. It's dedicated to helping dreamers everywhere. From our daily event series to immersive signature programs, we have something for pretty much every dreamer. Everything that we do is designed to help you celebrate the dream journey, overcome obstacles, and stay motivated. This is the Impact for Good series. And as part of our work, we've partnered with the American Family Insurance Dreams Foundation and their community partner, Association House Chicago. Association House is a nonprofit organization based in Chicago's Humboldt Park. They provide comprehensive, collaborative, and effective programs in English and Spanish. They promote health and wellness and create opportunities for educational and economic advancements. Leading this conversation today is Tanya and Jemina. Alicia Tavares is American Family Insurance Community and Social Impact Specialist with the Dreams Foundation. She will be moderating this conversation. We're so grateful to have you all with us. Welcome, Jemina, Tanya, and Alicia.
Thanks so much, Monica. And thank you everyone for joining us for today's Impact for Good session with Association House of Chicago, as Monica said. My name is Alicia Tavares. I'm a community and social impact specialist with the Dreams Foundation and a recent resident of Chicago. But for more than a century, Association House has uplifted the Chicago community through a variety of comprehensive programs that really do address an expansive array of needs, from workforce development to community health, which we'll touch on in today's conversation. But to first kind of properly introduce folks to Association House, I'm just going to first share a short overview video. So please bear with me while I share my screen, and hopefully everyone can see the video, hear the video.
In this building, everything matters. And anyone that's been told they can't before they walk through these doors is told they can. At Association House, we are a vibrant, inclusive home for people on a journey to live their fullest life. From sunrise to twilight, our building is alive with possibility. Here, the structural barriers that exist in our city are removed, and people are supported to build the lives they envision for themselves. Together, we do the hard work. Here, we speak your language. Aquí hablamos tu idioma. Students reach for big goals and graduate. Adults find job training to build the career of their dreams. Parents are supported to be the best versions of themselves. People with intellectual and developmental disabilities find community and friendship. Mental health programs help our participants achieve anything they set their mind to. We create space for people to learn and grow. We foster belonging and opportunity in the community. We are leaders in high-quality, interconnected, culturally responsive services. And we do it all with teamwork, laughter, a hug, dance breaks, and high fives. No challenge is too hard. No obstacle too great. We meet you with, we got this. We got you, grounded energy. Association House has been in Chicago for a century, and we will continue to be here as long as we are needed. We envision a future where each person is fully participating, economically, politically, socially, and culturally, in the life of their families, communities, and society. And we invite you to join us. Visit associationhouse.org for more information about joining our mission and vision for Chicago communities.
Awesome. Okay, well, with that and kind of that brief intro video shared with everyone, I'm incredibly excited to have Clinical Director Tanya Wade and YS3 Mentor and Association House High School Culture and Climate Coordinator Jemina Lyle join me for today's conversation. Welcome, Tanya and Jemina.
Hi, nice
Hello.
to see you.
How are you all?
Doing well. I know, Jemina, you've been doing some traveling, and Tanya, the weather here in Chicago was a little bit crazy this morning. So hope you're both, safe and sound.
Frightful.
Yes, then we're all here. We all made it.
Yes.
So to kind of get started, before we dive into the specific work that both of you do at Association House, I do want to go back in time a bit. As the video kind of showed, as we've alluded to, Association House has truly done something remarkable in that it's been operating for more than 120 years now at this point. And I guess I'll first start with you, Tanya. How did the organization really, first get started?
Well, first of all, thank you for having us. It's really a pleasure being here this afternoon, everybody. Well, I want you to kind of go back in time and imagine life in the 1800s. The Industrial Revolution has happened, modernization, urbanization, technology, all these new things are coming into fruition, which means jobs, urbanization, right? And it's the influx of a whole bunch of people into one area or areas in the cities that are impacted by Industrial Revolution and all this new stuff that's happening, right? In there comes more people, more immigrants, right? And that leads to a lot of poverty, a lot of exploitation by some of the companies that are trying to hire workers, chronic health conditions and death, housing and food insecurity. And you also had no labor laws. So children were also working in these places as well. So enter Ellen Holtz. She was a student of Jane Addams, and everybody knows Jane Addams created or was a founder of Hull House. And she created Association House. And she was also part of the Settlement House movement. So the Settlement House movement pretty much was something that they said, you know what, enough is enough. No one's really doing anything about bridging the gaps between the community and people who are coming into the community who are not doing very well within it. And they addressed the needs and desires of the community while addressing racism, sexism, child labor, housing, and health. So that was really a progressive era during that time. And the first ones kind of started in Boston. And by 1910, there were about 400 across the United States. Initially, when we got started, we were really managing to our services were more targeted towards the immigrants population. And then it moved on to women and children, because like I said, women and children in terms of sexism and racism and also child labor laws, they really weren't doing very well by 1900. So it was a place also to kind of celebrate the different cultures and religions and food and heritage that had come into the community as well. By 1946, Association House had expanded into serving people with DD and ID and youth needs. And also in 1976, we branched out even further because we saw the needs of the community, and we branched out into child welfare. By 1977, we had our very first behavior health program that was funded by the state, and that was PSR, which stands for psychosocial rehabilitation. And by 1980, the high school was born, and I think Jemina can talk more about that.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for giving us, that brief little history lesson, Tanya. And yeah, recognizing those roots, Jemina, how did the growing needs of the community over time, lead to the expansion of, or, changes to Association House's programming?
Okay, thanks for the question. And then like Tanya said, thank you for having us and for inviting us to do this and for highlighting Association House for this opportunity. So kind of along the same lines that Tanya spoke to, our work has always been community led. The work that Association House does is directly influenced by the needs of the community. And so, for example, in the 1950s, Association House had assembled a group of parents of children with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and their leadership allowed them to develop parent groups across the country, which was a part of the beginning of the deinstitutionalization movement of the support and the services that were being provided to people who have those intellectual and developmental disabilities. that's something that we're still very much involved in today through our different programs, including the PSR program and like our day program and things like that. But with the high school specifically, in the 1980s, what actually started out as a GED program evolved into the high school that you see today. And so it has been a very amazing journey for us, because what we used to be, again, just being a GED program for people who were looking for those second opportunities, we noticed that there is a greater need, right? There are more people who want to get their high school diploma. There are more people, more young people. At the time, there was a huge high school dropout crisis happening. And that's not to say that it isn't still going on today, because if it wasn't, we wouldn't be in business, right? But it is this thing that Association House saw the need in the community and immediately responded. And then in the 1990s, with Youth Connection Charter Schools as a collaborative, we became one of Chicago's first charter schools. So we were a high school prior to our collaboration with YCCS, but then with that collaboration, we became an even more, I guess, indebted to Chicago high school then.
Gotcha. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. I think kind of hearing more about how like Association has not only been reactive but proactive in terms of like creating these programs for the community is just so exciting to hear about, and the fact that, you know, that work is still continuing, you know, to this day. So yeah, I appreciate you both kind of walking us through. I know that's, you know, a hard task to do, to kind of walk through 100+ years of, you know, your organization's work. So do really appreciate that. And thinking a bit more about, you know, how you all operate today, knowing that you kind of started from, you know, immigrants, and now, you know, we're 100+ years later, who now really makes up the community that you serve in Humboldt Park, and how do they compare to, you know, other neighborhoods of Chicago maybe?
Yeah, so we are super diverse. I mean, we have Black and Brown people from all over the diaspora, hardworking people who are trying to raise their children, pay their bills, keep food on the table, and roofs over their head. You know, they celebrate who they are, have pride in their culture and heritage, and just want to make a way, right? But with that comes some difficulties too, some challenges in our communities. It's lower income usually and underemployed. There's a lot of food insecurity in a lot of our areas of Humboldt Park, as well as, you know, Hermosa, where we are as well. You know, food deserts. We've all heard that term, food deserts, just not a good place to find places so people can get nutritious meals and foods that they can eat. There's sometimes higher rates of violence, which gives them community in high and constant stress. And from that high and constant stress comes complex trauma that sometimes lasts generations, right? And higher incidence of mental health disorders, often untreated or undertreated. During the pandemic, for example, we were disproportionately hit on the west and south sides of Chicago with the highest death rates as compared to other parts of the city of Chicago. Also, the life expectancy between Chicagoans downtown and here on the west and south side span about 30 years difference. So they live 30 years longer than we do on this side of town.
Wow. Yeah, that is something that I was not aware of. Obviously, we know, like, I feel like a lot of people know with Chicago, the segregation that occurs, but kind of hearing those real numbers and real, you know, data behind that is, yeah, very eye-opening to hear for sure.
Sobering.
Yeah. Okay, well then, knowing that, you know, especially now that the community is, you know, heavily populated with, like, you know, you've got lower income folks, you've got Black and Brown folks now that are, you know, coming and needing services, kind of recognizing those diverse populations that you serve and the different needs that do arise. What is the process like for folks to receive services at Association House? I'll kind of let you both take this one, since I know there are different programs, different, you know, ways that folks are, you know, reaching out, getting referred, et cetera. But I guess you can start. I don't know who wants to go first, but yeah.
I'll go. So the high school enrollment process specifically is actually really simple. We have an online application that people can access. And if for whatever reason they don't have access to internet, they can always call and schedule a time to come in, and that can be their interview. So it can happen one of two ways. They can find us, or they'll call and they'll say, hey, we're really interested in your school. how do we go about enrolling? And we would say, there's an online application. You can go online and complete it. And if they say we don't have access, then we'll say, no problem. We'll schedule your interview now, and you can come in about 15 minutes earlier to complete that application, either online again or on paper, because we have both options available. And then from there, they'll do an interview. So the interview is typically 20 to 30 minutes, and they meet with either a member of the Department of Student Support Services, so someone like myself, or a member of the admin team. And we just get to know them, right? There are a series of questions that we ask. We want to know what's bringing you to our high school. I won't get ahead of myself about talking about the high school, but we want to know why you want to come to Association House High School and what you're looking to get out of that experience. And then that helps us to know how to move forward in our support for you, because this is our first touch point in getting to know you. And then from there, depending on what time of year it is that they're coming to do their enrollment process, they can start school as soon as tomorrow, right? Or it could be a little bit longer, right? Depending on where we are in the school year. So it just really depends on when that is. And then I know Tanya can speak to this a little bit more specifically, but for many of our programs, the enrollment process is not super extensive, but it might take some time, and that there may be a lag period or a wait list or something along those lines as far as getting in to do your interview or getting in to have that initial assessment. But that is the high school specifically.
Absolutely. And to piggyback off that, absolutely right. I mean, the first thing I would want people to start with is really going to our website. It's www.associationhouse.org. We get a lot of, especially in behavioral health, a lot of referrals from the community, from parole officers, probation officers, get them from hospital settings. Sometimes we get them from nursing home settings where people are coming out of the nursing home into the community after a very long period of having mental health services there. So we do have those funneling systems already in place because we have certain contracts with different entities. But check out our website, because we have a lot of programs in our website. And from there you can check out the website. From there we have a contact page. And we have a variety of numbers there as well. And you can kind of pick a number, right? I mean, we have different departments, different divisions. But if you're looking for behavioral health, there's a number for that. If you're looking for the high school, there's a number for that. I would say also right below that form, in terms of that page, we have a contact form. So you can also pose a question on that form. I get a lot of questions from people. They come right to my email. Sometimes people call me directly about our services, and I can kind of talk them, walk them through that. Once the person is kind of referred to the right program, because sometimes people are looking for a multitude of things, and so we want to really match them with the right program. There is an assessment process. A person will come in and be assessed for their needs and their strengths, and from there we have a treatment plan. And like Jemina was saying earlier, the piece of it that's kind of not a problem necessarily, but we have so much need and we only have so much capacity. So there are wait lists, unfortunately. A lot of our programs take people right away. I mean, as soon as they come in, they do the assessment process and they start programming. And that's across the board, across our agency. Behavioral health is probably the highest need at this point. So we do have some wait lists. But there's also always some type of assessment process, because we want to see where you are and what your needs are and what strengths that you have, again, to lend to whatever we're going to work with you on.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you both so much for sharing and knowing that, unfortunately, that the need is so high in the community, and being able to do, what you can. So still having, offering those assessment services to kind of say, okay, like, how can we best support them where they are is, obviously great to hear. So now I want to, learn a bit more about the work that each of you do. So I guess we'll start first with Tanya. In your role, as clinical director, how long have you been with Association House? Maybe share a little bit more about your background, and, what does your role as clinical director really entail on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So I've been with the agency for 10 plus years now, a little over 10 years. My background is it's a long time, but I wasn't going to be past 5, but it caught me and it kept me. So my background is in child welfare, and I'm a clinician. So I work closely with behavioral health and child welfare divisions mostly. My job is really, I think, very nuanced and runs the gamut. So it's as micro as supervising individual supervisors, interns, covering teams sometimes. I provide training opportunities to staff and to those outside in the community. I love mentoring brilliant and upcoming clinicians and young professionals, and that's what I think that's my bread and butter, if you would, something that I really enjoy doing, so that I do that quite a bit. I also work on policy, right? I ensure that we're meeting the clinical and procedural expectations of our grantors and contracts. I ensure evidence-based, trauma-informed, culturally affirming, consistent, and collaborative care while I'm here. It sounds like a commercial. It's because that's very important. We want to make sure that our services are consistent across the board and evidence-based and have some science and research behind them as well. And then on the macro side, we want to kind of address the needs and enhance the strengths while maintaining the dignity of our participants. So it's really kind of talking to staff, trying to figure out what they need and trying to fill those needs for them as much as I can. And the macro of it all is really being in front of this audience like this and educating the public about what we do and what a special place the house really is.
Awesome. I can like just even from that brief intro of your, yourself and your background, I feel like one can really tell where your passions lie and how, sure, you started off as a clinician, but you really do, so much more because, you care and you have that passion. Would you be able to highlight a few of the specific programs that Association House offers in terms of clinical services?
Oh, wow.
And how you all, promote health and wellness? Yeah, throughout.
So I have anybody knows I have a colleague named Emily. Emily is the one that usually goes through this spiel, but I'm going to give it a shot because we have a lot of different programs here, about 15 plus, I believe, and maybe longer, more than that in behavioral health alone. So we offer case management services, intensive case management services, and ID, the intellectual disability and DD services for those who have those particular needs. We also offer substance use disorder treatment and gambling outreach. We provide psychoeducation and address the social determinants of health. We have drop-in center, we have counseling meetings, and I want to kind of highlight those because outside of this, I think a lot of people know about counseling. They know about group work, they know about case management, but there's two programs that I really kind of want to talk about really briefly, and that's the drop-in center. Drop-in center has probably been around, and don't quote me on this because sometimes my timelines are off, but they've been at least 7 or 8 years it's been around, and it's a place where our participants can come and just chill. Right, there's so much going on. It's not necessarily a program per se. They have a lot of different things they discuss with the participants. They might talk about healthy eating habits. They might use music meditation. They have family movie nights. They just earlier this month, they went to Great America with a group of people. But it really is a place where someone can just be, and be social. Because if you think about it, we've been through a lot as a community, as a global community over the last 2-3 years. And it's counting. And a lot of it has led to a lot of isolative behavior. If you think about it, even some of us on this call now work from home, and that's isolative. I mean, while I would love to work from home every day, I also like to see my fellow colleagues and coworkers and talk with them as well. So the drop-in center is a place where our participants can gain some friendships, gain some social skills even, because sometimes it's hard to talk to people and just get the resources that they need. And we have an incredible staff up there that really works alongside of the participants to really give them what they need and just to be there for them in the community in that way. And then we have psychosocial rehabilitation. I kind of mentioned it in the history, other words known as PSR. And it really is where our participants enhance their recovery skills. Right. And that's, because socialization, that's self-care and management, medication management. How do you kind of present yourself in the world and take care of yourself so you can have another day, so you can see another day. We talk about healthy eating habits there, how to navigate your community, things like that. And they learn that in a classroom setting. But then there's an opportunity to take those skills and use them out in the community. And someone might take them out on another program too. So that's how these programs are linked in some way. So someone might be in PSR, for example, and be in a case management program such as Community Connections. And the Community Connections worker will take that same participant in PSR who learned how to, say, navigate the community and take them out of the community maybe for the first or second time on the bus. They don't know how to do that. They have high anxiety about doing those things. So those are the two programs that we have, like I said, a whole lot of programs, a lot of people doing a lot of brilliant work. It's a difficult work. And, I don't want to get too much on my soapbox as a political, but when we talk about social services, I also always wish that people in social services made as much as somebody in a Fortune 500 company, because that's what they're doing, right? They're working with human beings, and they should be paid what they're worth and what they're bringing to the table. And unfortunately, we're not able to do that. But the staff that we have, oh, they are committed, and they really put this programming into place, and they think about each and every individual as an individual.
I love that. Thanks for sharing, Tanya. And I know a couple of weeks ago, I was fortunate enough to be provided with a tour of the space. And so I was able to visit the drop-in center.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't always see that in a lot of places, that there's just like this opportunity for folks to come in, whenever, and just be in a safe and welcoming space. And able to talk to a gentleman there who had been attending, I think, for a number of years, a drop-in center. And he just was just hyping up all the different things that he's able to do, and just the folks he's able to meet and talk with. And it was such, beautiful thing to see. And not to kind of put you on the spot, Tanya, but just like a follow-up question that I have with that tour that I, took. Obviously, a large portion of the services that are offered by Association House, while there are ones where you go right into the community or into people's homes, but a lot of them happen directly on just different floors of this one building.
Yes.
And so I'm curious if you could share a bit about the impact or the outcomes that you see having that shared space where all these different programs are happening.
Oh, it's really incredible. I think people are really surprised how many programs we have here.
Yes.
And we can probably go through a lifespan, really, when we talk about, for example, the high school. Right? High school, I think they start at 16, go to 21. But some of these young folks have children, right? And we have an FLP program, Jemina may talk more about. I'm not going to talk too much about it. But they're able to get childcare services, if you would, while they're in school. The kids come down, the young adults come down from class, and they have lunch with their children and change their diapers and things like that. But it starts as early as that, right? And then maybe you're having some type of mental health crisis or condition that's happening, and you need extra services. So you might engage in, counseling, or you might need some case management, that type of thing. You can go through that as well. We have a lot of different programs. We have, in terms of some of the community development that we do and the workforce development that we do. Someone needs a job, for example, or they need job training, for example, they can go to the job training and get it here. They're trying to learn, maybe they have something, they want to learn something on computer. Guess what? We have some computer classes you can take here. Right. So it kind of runs the gamut all the way up to, if you have some other difficulties, like I said, we have substance use treatment here, level 1 and 2. That means nothing to a lot of you, but if you need those services, we have them here as well. So it really is, you can walk through each and every program under one roof here. Some people need more intensive services, and we have those services as well. Some people need some residential services. We have 2 residentials here. So again, people can really walk through and take advantage of all the services that we have, and have done it through generations. I really, one quick story. I had a neighbor in here in Oak Park, and she said, I wanted to donate to, to Association House. And I had no idea anybody knew about Association House in Oak Park, because we're small, but we're mighty. But a lot of people, we're not a household name like a Hull House or something like that when it comes to history, but now we are, right? And so she said, I want to donate to Association House because my father, when he came, he was an immigrant, and he came through Association House and was engaged in one of your programs. The man is in his 70s. Unfortunately, I think he died, as a matter of fact. And she wanted to donate because she knew about us. And that's how it works. It's generational, it's word of mouth, it's neighbor and neighbor.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing and for indulging me on that question. I think some of the pieces you brought up with the Association House transition nicely to Jemina. I want to start off kind of asking the same questions that I asked Tanya in terms of, when did you first get involved with the Association House? And really, what does it look like being the culture and climate coordinator for the high school? I know that's really not necessarily a title, at least wasn't at my high school. So like, what does that mean? What does that look like at Association House?
Yeah, so I started at Association House in about 2015. So just under Tanya, at about going on 8 years. Well, this is going into my 9th year at Association House. And I started as a mentor, and I still am a mentor. So that is part of my title, as you said, YS3 mentor. But before I jump into that, I'm going to give an example of what my role is. So a common myth or misconception about alternative high schools is that the students who attend those schools are bad, right? They've been kicked out of school. They all have juvenile records, all these things. And I'm not going to say that is not our students, but that is not all that our students are. Right. And so a lot of my role as a school culture and climate coordinator is not just dispelling that myth within the community at large, but at the school itself, right? Because it's important that our students see themselves as more than the statistics that they quote unquote uphold or are assigned to. And so what we do as a school and what I do through my role is helping our students to understand and to recognize that what they've chosen when they attend our school, because we're an option school, which means you have an option to attend our school. You're not forced to be here. You can leave at any moment in time, but you chose to be here. And in choosing to be here, you chose an alternative option to the traditional route of obtaining your high school diploma. And so it's really important in my role that they then get to have, through my role, that they then get to have experiences, not necessarily that mimic a traditional high school, but that give them what they need through high school, right? High school, or for us, school is not just about you need to know what 1 + 1 is and you need to know how to write a sentence. Those are important because we want to produce and we want to encourage well-rounded, well-educated young people, right? But at the same hand, you need to be very aware of your own feelings, your own identity, your own body as you experience life, right? And so we want to set our young people up to be able to do those things. And my role as a school culture and climate coordinator is literally built around that. I think the most simple way, and the way I explain it to students, is like the field trips you go on, the programming that we have here about at the school, the different opportunities that we bring and the workshops and all of that stuff. That's me, right? We have PBIS, positive school, positive behavior, my word just got lost in my mind, but it's about positive behavior incentives. And so where they get swag, but just like school logos, and we have our wolf bucks, which is school currency that they can earn throughout doing different tasks within the school day. I spend time in meetings, not only with students, but with administration, with the agency, because again, the high school is its own entity within the agency, but we are part of the agency. And so it's important to me that when my students are in the building, they're not just experiencing anti-racism, or they're not just having pleasant restorative justice interactions with school staff, but with the agency. And so part of my role is ensuring that we're a part of the agency and that the students feel that. And so I mean, I love what I do, right? I love getting to kind of what Tanya said about her role being built around policies and procedures. That's a lot of my role too. When I'm in those meetings with students, I'm not just meeting with them when they have maybe violated a policy or practice that we have at the school. It's about, hey, what do you want your school experience to be? What are you looking to get out of this? And how can I make sure that this happens for you? Because a lot of times when a student comes to us from a traditional setting, it didn't work for them, right? It for whatever reason, it didn't work for them. And there's no way on this green earth that I am going to continue to perpetuate cycles and experiences that they have had at other schools, right? And so if it's something that we can do differently while they are in our building, that's what we're going to do.
Right. Yes, I love that, Jemina. Especially knowing, when I was able to just walk through, the fourth floor, where the high school is, and seeing that it really was just a place of community. It wasn't some like dark, damp dungeon where like they, people are just sent off to. It really felt like a warm, welcoming, and safe space for students. And that was just so cool to see. And kind of keeping, on that similar path. You've touched on this a little bit. And I obviously too, as a YS3 mentor, I know there are, different mentoring programs and support services that are offered to the students. So if you could share a little bit more about some of the wraparound services that are offered to students attending the high school, or like other, unique and particularly impactful programs that are available for the students who are enrolled.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think sets our schools apart, so we're not 500 students, right? And maybe in the year 2020 something, we will be 500 students. But that's not who we are, right? And I'm okay with that. I'm absolutely okay with that, because What we are is I can tell you every single student's name when they walk in the building, right? And what they look forward to is we have passing periods. They're about 2 minutes, and they would never tell anybody, but I know they like this. And you can't tell me that they don't like this. We sit in the hallway, staff, we're in the hallway, and we call them by name as they're walking past us. And I'm like, I missed you today. Oh my gosh, I didn't see you. And they're like blushing, and then they're like, stop. We're like, no, you like it, you like it, you like it. But it's those things, right? Like, we are very much a community. We're very much a family, and that sets us apart. And I can't speak for any other school or anything like that, but I know that one of the things that when we talk to our students towards the end of their time or around graduation, they always say, you saw me, you see me, you know me, you didn't give up on me, you took the time to get to know me. And so the way we do that is when our students come in, every single student is assigned a mentor, every single student. Now, it does take us a little bit of time because we want to be intentional about doing that. What we do have is we have about, in collaboration with Alternative Schools Network, we have several programs that afford us the opportunity to be able to provide our mentors at the school, like myself. So as you said, I am the YS3 mentor. And so that program supports youth in care who are looking to get their high school diploma. So those students that go to our school who have an open DCFS case are automatically assigned to me, and they work directly with me. Then we have our STLS program, which is actually a national program that services youth who are experiencing instability in housing and with homelessness. And so what we do is I run that program, and we do it different. We run it as a individual mentoring program. So they get to meet with me, they speak with me on a weekly basis, and we get to know them, because again, we want to know what you need. And that's how we build our programming throughout the year. When we have our workshops and things like that, it's based on these interactions with our young people. We have a program called SCAN, which is specifically for youth who are either involved with the juvenile justice system or at risk for being involved with the juvenile justice system. We have WIOA, or the YES program, which is a workforce development program. We have COMPASS and RSP and YMP. I know I'm throwing out a lot of acronyms. So and just the acronyms are what the programs are called, but they're essentially RSP, YMP, and COMPASS. They're all about providing direction and support for kids who were previously disengaged and getting them re-engaged with school and getting them in the process of being there. And so what happens with their mentoring is they meet with the mentor twice a week. We take knowing our students very seriously, right? If they don't come to school, they get a phone call, not just from our attendance clerk, but they get a phone call from their mentor. We want to know where you at, when you come to school, and if there's a barrier, what we can do to eliminate that barrier. And I think a part of that and what makes us unique is we address the whole person, right? So again, you're not just here to get an education, you're here to get support, you're here to get other needs met. Tanya talked about it earlier when she talked about how the populations we serve are disenfranchised and they are marginalized and all these things. They have this trauma and all of this stuff. And so if you're hungry, there's little to no possibility you are going to be able to tell me what Y equals AX plus B is, right? Like that's not your focus. If you just saw somebody get shot the night before, writing an essay about Romeo and Juliet, which we don't do, but writing an essay about Romeo and Juliet is just not where your mind is. And it is okay. It's okay. And so what we want to do is figure out how can we support you from given your everyday circumstances, not only to get through high school, but beyond, because that's not just the end goal here, right? I don't just want you to get your high school diploma. I want you to get your high school diploma and then go on and be productive, be civically minded, be culturally sensitive to what's happening in the world and in your community.
And can I just add something that Jemina, I mean, the high school is amazing. You really, I mean, if you're in the area, please come see it. You know,
please do. This is your open invitation.
Please come see the house, period. But what high school do you know that has a washer and dryer in it? Right? Because who wants to, you know, sometimes people don't have access to that. So the need was seen, and we purchased a washer and dryer for students to use to wash their clothes to come to school. How many high schools do you think have that? It's an incredible program. It's an incredible
And
program.
a funny story about the wash and dryer. So you all don't know me, but you know me now. We're friends. In case you didn't know, we're friends. And so for the first time in my adult life, I had to go to the laundry mat like a couple years ago. And I was with one of my coworkers and I had a full on just like, I'm dramatic in case you can't tell. And it was dramatic, right? I'm in the laundromat, like, I can't believe this. This is so expensive. Who charges this much to wash clothes? And I'm like, I'm not outraged, but I'm loud. And everybody in laundromat is kind of low key agreeing with me, right? They're like, it is pretty expensive. And so as I go through this like ball of emotions, and my coworkers eventually like, you know what? Let me help you out. I'm going to put $10 on your laundry cart so you can stop having this, like, and I was like, okay, thanks. But as I go through that, and then I just like literally start crying, right? And so she's panicked, and I was just like, no, I don't think you understand. I am freaking out about having to put $20 on this card, right? But I have the $20 to put it on the card. This is, if my students are going to the laundromat and they don't have $20 to put on the card, the cheapest machine in the laundromat was $5, right? Like $5.71 or something like that. And I was like, if they don't have $5.71, they can't do a load of laundry. And this is the smallest machine, right? And so I was like, this is why we have a laundry machine at the school. And this is why we provide the laundry detergent and the bleach, because these are things you shouldn't have to think about, right? Mm-hmm. And we see it. There have been times where I've had to, we get reports we have a referral system. And it's not just, again, it's not about discipline, it's about needs. It's about meeting student needs. And so, a teacher, a student, somebody can fill out this referral form and we will follow up immediately. And we've had referrals where it's been like, hey, we've been smelling this kid. I'm not in the classroom, so I don't always smell the smells in the closed and enclosed space, right? The hallway is a little different than an enclosed space. And I'll have to pull that student aside. Hey, I want you to bring in your clothes tomorrow. I'll pull you discreetly during the passing period, or we can do it before school, we can do it after school, and we're going to wash your clothes. And they're astounded, right? I'm working on getting the showers because I think that's another great opportunity for us to have. But it's things like that. To Tanya's point, we don't just have the laundry room. We have what we call like our mini mart. And so they can go and get full size items for hygiene. If they need clothes, we get clothes. If they need underwear, I am in the store buying packs and packs and packs of underwears and cleaning out stores, packs and packs of joggers and leggings and hoodies and t-shirts, because one, it shouldn't be known that you had to get support in this way. It shouldn't have to be like a known fact, right? And two, you should still be able to feel confident and clean, and not that you have to skimp. So if they need soap every week, come get your soap every week. If you need underwear every week, come get your underwear every week. And then I'm gonna talk to you about bringing it in so that we can wash it and we can learn those processes. But this is who we are. And I think the other thing, and then I know we kind of harped on this question for a while, but Tanya also alluded to it. The agency is very interconnected and very collaborative. And so what we try to do is we utilize all of the services in the agency for our students. So when a student graduates high school, we try to make sure that they're going on to the workforce development if they don't have another plan following that. And so it's a lot of opportunities that we have to collaborate within the agency to meet those goals and those values that we have.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you both for sharing. I know high school as it is, can already be difficult enough without having to worry about outside life, and it should be a space where you can go and really focus on learning, but recognize at the same time that that's not always the case. So to have those additional support services really is so crucial. And as I obviously went to a bit bigger high school where I maybe saw my guidance counselor maybe 2 times, I think maybe the entire time that I was in school. So knowing that they've got that support system and they meet twice a week, with their mentor, is just, incredible to hear. Kind of moving forward a bit, want to kind of continue this theme though of, community that's, really built throughout Association House. actually maybe a month ago now at this point, I attended the most recent BankWorks graduation, which is a program centered around economic opportunity. And one thing I noticed right away, despite it being, it was a Zoom graduation, it was virtual, but right away though, I sensed the immense support that the graduates had for one another. And so just curious, we can shift this to Tanya. Jemina, if you also want to share a little bit too, but how does Association House foster connections, not only between, the staff and the participants, but also between the participants themselves?
Well, just today we had a game day for the staff. I think it was about an hour, so unfortunately I didn't get to go. But just a week or so ago, we had an ice cream social for staff. I talked about a drop-in center earlier. They have, like I said, the consumer council meetings where the participants decide what they want to do that month, what activities they want to engage in, what they want to learn, what they want to do. We have appreciation picnics. There have been a lot of teams here, a couple of teams that I know of, like ACT team, which is the Assertive Community and Treatment team, and some of our other intensive case management teams that throws appreciation lunches for and with their participants, maybe monthly or quarterly. Every time. And they might hand out little cheesy prizes and certificates and things like that. But our participants beam at that. They feel seen and they feel like they've come to a place where they are, respected. Prior to COVID, we did a lot more with our participants, and we're probably going to bring it back this year. For example, we have a Thanksgiving and Christmas celebration with them where we bring in food and all the participants come. Some of them bring their families. And it's a beautiful, beautiful time just to kind of celebrate and to commune with one another and break bread. We also had, and interestingly enough, during COVID, we didn't have the opportunity to come together. We've had staff members cook in their kitchens or cook down in PSR and bring meals to people on their time. That's the kind of place this is, right? It's not sitting behind a desk. It really is communing and working with our participants. They teach us things, we teach them things, and it's a beautiful time. This coming month in August, a little plug, we are going to have a back to school fair on August 5th from 9 o'clock to 1 in our parking lot out here. We're giving away backpacks, we're providing haircuts, we're providing physicals, fun and games for everybody, refreshments. So please come out and join us for that. That's another way we really embrace the community and really love on the community.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Tanya. I assume folks can find that information right on the website.
They can,
for
absolutely.
The fair. Love it. Okay, I know we're, running out of time and want to make sure we, hit a few more questions here. So I'm just gonna jump a little bit ahead. A question for Jemina. I know that, in our time that we've been chatting, before this, you've been leading diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives internally at Association House. And so I'd love to hear a bit more about the work that you're doing in that space and why that is so important for the organization.
Thank you. This is also one of my joys. And so, a few years ago, we started having very intentional conversations within the house, at the high school, and then it kind of boiled over within the house as a whole around how are we culturally responsive? And we are, right? Because literally our work is in response to the needs of the communities that we serve. And so in the last 2 years, we formed a very intentional DEI committee that is made up of people throughout the agency, staff throughout the agency. And we have a very firm and explicit public stance on support for BIPOC, LGBTQ+, and other marginalized individuals and communities, both within our service areas and beyond, right? So we don't just look at who we're servicing immediately in the building, but who is being affected as a whole within the United States and within the world. And so we do programming throughout the agency that includes us bringing in local businesses to not only expose our clients and staff, but also to have the opportunity to just collaborate, right? Again, it's important that people know who Association House is, but it's also important that we know who is out there and who's available. And so every month we choose to focus on either highlighting what that month does. So we might focus on Hispanic Heritage Month or Black History Month or Women's History Month. We've done disability awareness and those kind of things. We put out statements in response to things that are happening within the country. And so when we had all of those Supreme Court decisions come down, we were like, we need to respond, right? Because it's important that not only do our participants know that we are very intentional and we're responding to the things that are happening, but our staff needs to know, because we are people that are affected by the decisions that happen, not only in a legislative way, but just in our community. It is important that people who are within Association House knows that we have our finger on the pulse, and we're looking for ways to respond and looking for ways to interact with one another and with the community as a whole.
Right. Yeah, I think in a time, and you mentioned this, in a time where we're seeing, or at least I'm seeing, everyone's seeing, more in the news about organizations shifting away from, diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, especially like you mentioned with recent Supreme Court rulings. It's really cool to hear about how intentional Association House is with their practices, advancing those specific initiatives, and that it is, a core part of all of your, your work that you do. And kind of keeping that spirit going, kind of inviting our audience in a bit more. I wanted to ask both of you if there are ways that folks can get involved in reducing access barriers and uplifting the community within their own neighborhood, whether it be Chicago or elsewhere.
Yeah, and so I think one, it's really important to know what agencies and organizations are in your community, and figuring out ways to access those organizations. It is likely that the people who are on this webinar are people who are resilient, right? And who know how to push past barriers pretty not innately, but it's a part of who they are, right? You came to this webinar because you're curious, and there's some personal drive to do those things. The people that we often are serving don't always have that. The barrier comes, and then the idea or the mindset to continue to push past the barrier is not there. And so it's important for us, as the people who are willing and know how to make those phone calls, know how to get access to that stuff, to be aware of what's available in your community. And then when you come across people, be comfortable enough to recommend an agency, be comfortable enough and knowledgeable enough to say, hey, this is out there. You should look into this. You've asked me about this before. I did some research. Reach out to this organization. You don't want to do it? Here, I'll make the call with you, right? And so that's a very big thing, is knowing what's available in your community and making those connections for other people in your community.
Awesome. Thank you both so much for just such a wonderful conversation and bringing just the absolute best vibes to this Wednesday afternoon. I'm going to pass it over to Monica just to see if there are any questions from the audience, but if not, then to kind of start to close us out.
All right, well, I wanted to, first of all, thanks y'all. This was great. Like, it was nuggets everywhere. My notepad is full over here. So I have some questions for myself. We have one question that came in from the audience, but I want to offer an opportunity for Tanya to answer your last question, Alicia.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So yeah, what can they do in their communities, right? I think you can do quite more than you think you can. There's some folks who think, I don't have a lot of money, I can't give, but you can give your time. A lot of people have desire to give their time, and they're able to do that. We have a newsletter. You can subscribe to our newsletter, get some information about our organization, for example. You could also, volunteer, right? Volunteer for some of the things that are coming up. And it's really about, I think, to places like Dream Foundation, who is giving the money that we need, and have really dedicated themselves to kind of helping with some of the funding that we need. And we'd love for bigger organizations to do that too, and bigger foundations to do that too, because we want to keep the doors open. And that's a way that people can kind of impact their community. You're impacting the house, because we're going to funnel that back into the community and serve the people that we serve. So those are just a couple of ways that people can help in their own communities. If they see it, do it. You have the opportunity, please take it.
I agree, most definitely. Well, just a note to both you, Tanya and Jemina, after 5 years, you're a lifer, so basically you ain't going nowhere. After 5 years, that's like a rule around here. After 5 years,
that's what they keep saying. That's what they keep saying. That's what they keep saying. I think we're stuck in a good way. In a good way.
Yeah, it's a wrap. You're locked in now. I think it's amazing. One note that I took just a quick little jot that I took was Association House is really a jack of all trades, right? Because how is it, and you know, a lot of organizations and programs, they're like, well, this is our niche, and this is our niche, and we're gonna focus over here, we're gonna focus over there. But Association House has literally said, we don't have a focus. People is our focus. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is our focus. Resources is our focus. And so, just being this jack of all trades that you are, and the scope of the programs that you have, 15 plus programs, like I can't imagine what it takes to sustain that. But I have a clear understanding of why Dreams Foundation chose your organization in this situation, because you know it's what they do. It's what they're looking for, people and organizations that are deserving of that, and this is definitely one that's deserving of that. Another little nugget that I jotted down that I did not know was that there's a 30-year difference in life expectancy.
Yeah, it's very sobering, very sobering. And let me just add this. I'm sorry, Monica, I don't mean to cut you off, but we have 30 plus programs within the whole agency. So that's even more than 15. 30 plus programs.
Okay. Yes. So that 15 is under the PSR.
That's under some behavior health. We have a lot under the behavior health. Yes.
That's awesome. That's amazing. And it speaks even more to why Dreams Foundation chose you to give this opportunity to. I'm just so happy. Like, you know, I'm over here. I'm a fly on the wall, right? I'm happy to be able to share this with my audience and bring what you do to life with my audience, and show the DreamBank audience that there are programs, organizations out there that you can mirror and that you can learn and grow from. And it's definitely, Association House is one that's for everybody. You know, it's just for everybody. Jemina, about the high school part of it, I know that you said students can start on any given day. Is the curriculum, do you have a set curriculum, or is it kind of unique to everyone that comes into the program?
So the teachers, we have the core subjects, right? English, math, science, social studies. And there is a curriculum. They have a curriculum, they have lesson plans and all those things. And when I say that they can start any day, again, it does depend on what time of year it is. So at the beginning of the school year, up until progress report, pretty much for every quarter, we allow a student to start immediately. After the progress report, just because we're halfway through the quarter at that point, it's not reasonable to expect that they're going to do all the work that was missed. And it's also not fair or just to them or the other students to expect that they're going to be able to do all that in that short amount of time. So after the progress report, again, which is halfway through a quarter, they would start at the start of the next quarter. But typically they're not, depending on when they come in the beginning of the school year, we literally will start them the very next day. In some cases, we've been known to start them the same day. It just depends. So when they come in, the teachers do take the time to meet with them, along with the mentors, to figure out what they need as far as support is concerned. We have students who have IEPs, those individual education plans, and supporting them and providing them with the needs, making sure that we're meeting their needs as well. So it really just depends overall on when they come in. But if they come in the middle of a quarter, well, they won't come in the middle of a quarter. We'll say start at the beginning of the next quarter. But if they come in that first half, they'll get some time with the teacher to figure out how to get them caught up and what they need.
I appreciate the fact that there isn't this huge gap of time in between when they do apply or register and when they can actually start. So that's helpful information. We have one question that came in from the audience. Do you assist students with transportation to school?
So it's a rather nuanced answer. It's a yes and a no. It really depends. And so the no is more with a yes. I think the yes is the bigger answer. If a student qualifies for a certain program, the programs have the ability to provide transportation assistance. Pretty much every single program provides some kind of transportation assistance. Students who are eligible for STLS program, there is an eligibility also to receive support with transportation. But the school itself doesn't have like a bus that picks people up, or we don't provide Ubers, right? Like that isn't a thing. But we do try to figure out ways to support students, which is another reason why we try to make sure every single one of our students gets attached to a mentor and therefore enrolled in a program, because the programs have the ability to provide transportation support to them.
Who are the mentors? I know we're out of time, but I have a lot of questions, but I'm just going to ask you.
So,
come on, Monica.
I'll say this: the Department of Student Support Services is co-led by my counterpart, Mayor Bell Ortega-Vasquez, and we up under that umbrella is where all of our support programs come, and we have. I won't throw names because I didn't ask their permission to throw their names on this internet. But if you log in, if you go to our website, you'll be able to see every single program we have, as well as pictures of our mentors. But we do have about 8 to 9 people that fall under the umbrella of the Department of Student Support Services. And so again, if we have 165 students in a year, that gives us roughly anywhere from 15 to 20 kids under each caseload.
That's amazing. You all are doing amazing work. Again, I can see why Dreams Foundation chose you, and I appreciate all of you for your time today and for sharing this very, very, very important information with us. Big shout out to everyone who tuned in today. The chat is busy. Everyone has questions and comments, and there's a whole community happening. See, y'all make community happen everywhere you go, because the whole community happening over there in the chat. So yeah, greatly appreciate that. Again, I want to say thank you to everyone that's tuning in. Don't forget to follow us on social media. We are on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Check out DreamBank. And this recording will be available on our YouTube channel on demand early next week. So if you know someone that missed this discussion that wants to check it out, share this with them, share with your community. On behalf of American Family Insurance DreamBank and our Dreams Foundation, we look forward to hosting you again soon. Continue dreaming fearlessly. Bye, everyone.